All right, let's get into one of the wildest what-if stories in the history of science. We're talking about Nikola Tesla and his absolutely audacious plan to power the entire world without a single wire in sight. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. No power lines crisscrossing the sky, no more electric bills in the mail, just abundant, clean energy beamed right to you, pulled from the Earth itself. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? Well, here's the thing. Over 100 years ago, one of the most brilliant and, yeah, eccentric minds in history insisted this was not fiction at all. He was actually building it. And then, just when he was on the brink of pulling it off, the whole project just collapsed. The dream completely vanished. Okay, so let's really dive into this. To get what happened, you first have to grasp the sheer scale of this idea. This wasn't just some clever new invention. It was a total reimagining of how humanity would use energy. This right here was the heart of Tesla's whole philosophy. He truly believed that our planet wasn't just a rock we live on, but a gigantic, natural electrical generator. He was absolutely convinced that if we just had the right key, we could unlock this enormous, untapped power source. And look, this wasn't just a theory he was scribbling on a blackboard. It actually took physical form, a massive, towering structure out on Long Island, New York. It was called the Wardenclyffe Tower, and it was supposed to be the very first piece of a new global energy system. The science he was working with, well, it was ambitious, to say the least. The basic plan was to pump incredible amounts of electricity down into the Earth and up into the ionosphere. That's the upper layer of our atmosphere. In theory, this would turn the entire planet into one giant conductor. Anyone, anywhere, could then just draw power with a simple antenna. And this really shows you the utopian dream he was selling. This was about so much more than just convenience. It was about democratizing energy, giving free power to literally everyone, and creating a truly connected world. It was a vision that could have completely changed the course of human history. But as we all know, we don't live in Tesla's wireless world. The grand promise ran headfirst into a very harsh reality, and the whole dream just came crashing down. And the collapse was shockingly fast. Construction kicks off in 1901 with all this hype and excitement. But just 3 years later, his main investor, the incredibly powerful financier J.P. Morgan, pulls the plug. By 1917, that magnificent tower is dynamited and sold for scrap metal just to pay off his debts. It's just gone. So why? Why did it all fall apart? This is where the debate gets really interesting. Because when you compare Tesla's claims to our modern understanding of physics, some serious problems pop up. Scientists today are pretty much in agreement that trying to send high power around the globe like this would be incredibly inefficient. Most of the energy would just be lost. Not to mention, it could have been extremely dangerous. But the science might not have been the only thing that killed the project. You see, his backer, J.P. Morgan, reportedly asked a very simple but very telling question. If anyone can draw on the power, where do we put the meter? The very thing that made Tesla's idea so amazing, free, accessible power for everyone, also made it a complete financial nightmare for an investor. If you can't measure it, well, you can't build people for it. And this really brings us to the central mystery that still hangs over this whole story. How are we supposed to look back at this? Was Tesla a genius who was suppressed by the powers that be, a genuine threat to the establishment? Or was he maybe just caught up in a beautiful but ultimately impossible delusion? So you can really break down the different takes into 3 main camps. The genius camp points to things like the wireless charging we use for our phones and says, see, the basic idea was sound. The delusion camp leans on modern physics, arguing the global scale of it was just never going to work. And then you have the threat perspective, which focuses squarely on that money question. The idea that the project was deliberately killed because it couldn't be controlled, and more importantly, couldn't be monetized. And, as with most things this big, the truth probably isn't just one simple answer. It's much more likely a mix of all 3. Tesla was almost certainly a genius with a vision way, way ahead of his time, but that vision also seems to have had some serious scientific flaws. And maybe most importantly, it was a direct threat to the financial interests that were building the entire energy industry. So that's the big question we're left with, isn't it? What really happened here? Was the science the real deal breaker? Or was the business model the thing that truly doomed it? We're just left to wonder about this revolutionary idea that was never really given a fair shot. a brilliant, maybe flawed, vision that was perhaps just too radical and a little too free for the world it was born into.